I'm reporting from the Blueprint News Network at Downers Grove South High School. When I tell people that I like to read, oftentimes I'm offered two responses. I usually either get the, "Wow, I could never like reading, it's so boring," or, "What book are you reading now?" More often than not, I end up getting the first of the two responses, creating the false narrative that readers are a rare breed. But readers aren't as rare as one might believe, and you just might turn out to be an avid reader after listening to what these individuals from different walks of life have to say about their reading journeys and habits. The first of those featured is English teacher Kirsten Thompson. Having a doctor as an English teacher certainly indicates a strong relationship with books, and Dr. Thompson believes that her early experience with books was crucial later on.
It started from the time I was super young. My dad used to read to me from a series of Sesame Street books, and he would do all the voices. And I always loved interacting with him while I was doing the voices of the Sesame Street characters. And then the other thing is my mom would take me to the library every single week. And I would get to pick out whatever books I wanted. Sometimes I get to stay and read. As I got older, I would go with my friends and stay at the library. And I just always felt excited and safe at the library.
Holidays are typically associated with feelings of happiness. Getting a book for Christmas will certainly give you that feeling of happiness, which is how librarian Inmaculada Galan began her reading journey.
There was a series about a girl that was living in a boarding school. It took place in Denmark, and I remember I think I got one as a Christmas gift, and got me hooked onto I wanted to know more, because it was kind of an adventurous, and it was fun to read about the different experiences they had at the school, and so that got into reading. Then I fell in love with Agatha Christie, the mysteries. I love those, knowing who did it, and I don't know, I just kept reading.
For junior Juliana Conyer, this love for reading began early and continued through the years due to a popular children's series, Harry Potter. Conyer speaks on how her mother influenced her reading journey.
There's always been a big emphasis on reading in my household. My parents were not very avid readers when they were younger, and so when we were kids, they made sure we read for 20 minutes every night, and it obviously started with picture books, but then I started reading kid chapter books, and when it became more of an independent thing, I just really started to love it. I would say the Harry Potters.
Yeah.
I actually, it was in second grade that I read the first one because my friend was having a Harry Potter birthday party, and I never read the books or seen the movies.
That's so cool. That's such a cool birthday party.
It was a really cool party, and my mom actually made me read I was like, I'm not going to read it, it'll be fine. She made me read the first one, and I was hooked, and that kind of, it helped me develop a lot of the reading habits that I still have today.
As their love for reading grew, all three of these speakers noticed a change in reading habits as well. For Thompson, this meant a change in how she viewed books themselves throughout the years.
I think when I was, really young, I just found books, fascinating and interesting. And I think as I got a little bit older, maybe when I was your age, I would really just want to escape into books. And so I read a lot of series books when I was your age. I read a lot of Anne Rice books. Do you know Anne Rice books?
No, I don't.
So there were stories about vampires and witches and huge books. And I would get so excited when I get a new one. I couldn't wait for the next one to come out, Probably how maybe you've experienced with maybe Harry Potter or something like that. But I think that as I started to decide to major in English, I was an English rhetoric major, and I liked building arguments about literature. So I liked reading and trying to figure out a deeper argument. And then I think some of that still exists, obviously. That's the professional side of my reading now. I would say the private side of my reading is a lot more about finding books that I think authors do a really good job of, like touching life in a way that's really fascinating, or reading with my kids and trying to get them interested in reading and seeing what they're interested in. So I would say that's the way in which my relationship to reading.
In the case of Golan, her intensive reading experience in grad school is what broadened her reading horizons.
Well, I think for a while there was a lot of like adult literature, and then through grad school, when I was going to become a librarian, one of my classes was young adult literature, and I remember we had to read 5 books a week. So there was a lot of reading really fast, and it exposed you to a lot of different genres. Because one week would be realistic fiction, one week would be horror. That was my least favorite week.
I agree, that sounds like that approach.
But getting to explore different areas like graphic novels, children's picture books, and how complex they are. Even though they may look very simple, there is a lot into. So that kind of really opened my horizons. Audiobooks. Having to read 5 books a week meant I needed to listen to some of those while I was driving to school. And I love audiobooks. Now that's most of my reading.
Conyers' reading style undertook a great shift from reading predominantly nonfiction books to more fiction books.
In junior high, I was super into mysteries. Before that, in like elementary school, I read a lot of marine biology books.
Oh.
So like nonfiction stuff.
Yeah.
I read every marine biology book in our library, I swear. And then the mysteries. And now in high school, it's more diverse than ever. I read realistic fiction, I still read mysteries, I read romance, I read classics, wide variety.
If any of the journeys spoke to you, you might be inclined to read one of the speaker's favorite and most impactful books.
One of the most recent books that had a really profound impact on me is this book about white women and the ways in which they essentially protested and controlled how textbooks were published. This is like in the 1930s and 40s, and even into the 50s some, and like essentially like made sure that history was presented in this very like heroic way, and like praising a lot of white people making history, and like I never knew that. Like nobody ever taught me that in school. And so that was like a really eye-opening book that I feel like had profound impact on me. But that was like a nonfiction book. A fiction book, I would say even teaching Gods of Jade and Shadow last year to my sophomores was pretty profound, in that I'd never taught a book about Mayan mythology. I didn't know a lot about Mayan mythology, and I thought it was really fascinating and interesting. Having a female heroine, we don't get to have too many of those books. There aren't enough of them. So that was another book that I feel like just had profound impact because of the way the kids interacted with it.
One that I read recently is called Into the Wild Light. And I just love the message. Because there's a kid, I think it's coming on our, but he has had a tough childhood, but he's very grateful for what he has. He's very humble, and now he has the opportunity to go to a very selective school, boarding school, and he at first doesn't want to. He doesn't feel like he deserves it or he has earned it, but he gets pushed, and I'm looking to see. But that one, I don't know, I just love that message. In the Wild Light by Jeff Sedner, but it's like, if you are afraid, if you let fear stop you from doing things, it takes over. Where if you expand your life, if you take the risk, if you say yes, then fear gets smaller. So that is one book that lately I really have enjoyed.
A book I would like everybody to read is, I would say Pride and Prejudice. I just think it's such a classic. I think everybody should read it. I think the main character is just such a great example of like what a strong, independent woman should be, and the fact that she chose love, but also she chose like being her own individual is just really empowering to me, and I think it's an empowering book for anybody who reads it.
These journeys are only some of many people's experiences with reading. Some begin early and continued on, while others may have started later but could be just as powerful. No matter how one's reading journey began, one idea is clear: a love for reading lasts a lifetime. This is Anjali from the Blueprint News Network, and thank you for listening.